I haven't been so excited about a package in a long time. These are my seeds from Prairie Moon Nursery. I made the purchase a little while ago. I can't remember exactly what I have in here, but I know that I had a plan and I'm excited to share it with you. Sometimes you forget what you ordered and it's like a little surprise. It's like Christmas morning. Let's dig into these seeds. Okay. Now it says right here, open immediately. And that's because some of the seeds in here might need to be refrigerated. It's been on the counter for a few days. I'm gonna make sure that things go right into the fridge if necessary. Sometimes our native seeds, they have some special needs. It's not like growing tomatoes. It's not like growing lettuce. So you can kind of see, there we go. Oh, I'm so excited. Look at what I have. This is the booklet with the germination codes. That'll help me figure out how to germinate these seeds. Each seed needs something different. So let's take a look. Oh my goodness. I bought so many things. Okay, let's check it out. So these are in no particular order right now. I'm just gonna kind of go through them. That's a good sound. I am going to rate them based on how beginner friendly they are, meaning is it easy for someone who's new at germinating seeds to get started with this particular plant. They have them packaged up all nicely with a couple of rubber bands, and these seed packs have all different kinds of seeds in them, and they have all different numbers of seeds in them. One might have 30 seeds and the other one might have 300 seeds based on how large the seeds are. Some of these seeds are so tiny, they're like a grain of sand, or if you just blow on them, they will just blow away like a powder. Some of them are really small. I have a lot of these seeds, so let's get started. Wild leeks. These are also known as ramps. Now, a lot of people are really excited, especially foragers, very excited about ramps. This is a perennial type of allium, an onion that comes back every year. You can harvest the leaves. These are not easy to grow from seed. I would say that these are moderately difficult, challenging to grow from seed as I read about them, but I still am up for the challenge, and I have kind of a part shade area that would be perfect for these. So I'm gonna go ahead and give these a try. Did I order this? This is Rattlesnake Master, or Eryngium yuccafolium. Yuccafolium means it has yucca-like foliage, but that doesn't mean it's in the yucca family. It just means the leaves look like a yucca. Anyway, this is a super cool plant. I don't have very many of these. I only have a couple, and I really want to have more. This is great for full sun prairie. If you have an area for full sun, these grow great from seed. Very easy to grow from seed. So I'm going to say this is very beginner friendly. Okay, let's take this big package out of the way. I obviously ordered a lot of these, and this is purple coneflower. Now, this is because I didn't get to my purple coneflowers in time. I just kind of left them up. I love leaving them standing, and I just wanted to have a lot of purple coneflower this year. Purple coneflower is a perfect plant to give away. A lot of people have seen it before. Beautiful flower, and a lot of wildlife is attracted to it. So we're talking butterflies, bees, even hummingbirds will definitely nectar on this plant. So I really like giving these away. I would say this is moderately easy and beginner friendly. If you follow the steps for winter sowing or cold stratifying seeds, purple coneflower is super easy for beginners to grow. Highly recommend. Now, purple coneflowers and a lot of these plants aren't going to give you blooms in the first season, but if your season is long enough, I have definitely started purple coneflowers indoors in like February or March, and then by October, they were a full-grown plant, gallon size, with several blooms on them. Technically, you can't rely on them to bloom the first year, but I got blooms within 6 months. So it just depends on if they really like the area, if they're getting enough sun, if they're getting all the nutrients they need. Sometimes they will bloom the first year. The next seed packet that I got is wild geranium. I love wild geranium, Geranium maculatum. This is a fantastic shade plant, and it is relatively easy to grow. I've grown these, I've grown these through the winter sowing method. I've also grown them indoors, and I had some pretty good success with them. The secret is that if you get some of these started and they start blooming and giving you seeds, it's pretty easy to collect the seeds if you know when to collect them, probably after they're done blooming sometime in early June. Of course, I got some Monarda. This one is Monarda bradburyana. Of course, this is one of my favorites. It's a bee balm, but it is short, so it's easier to kind of put in the garden. I also like Monarda fistulosa, which is a purple bee balm. That one is 4 or 5 feet tall sometimes. It turns into quite a large clump. You have to have space for it, and it has to be surrounded by other native plants or it flops over. This guy is a little smaller and a little more manageable. I also, of course, love the red bee balm. It's called, what is it called? Monarda didyma. I would say Bradbury's Monarda is pretty easy to grow from seed. I grew a lot from seed last year. They grew really fast. It is in the mint family. And if you know anything about mint, it's a pretty strong plant, very easy to seed. And of course, I got 3 Jacob's Ladder. I'm just trying to get that thumbnail here. I got 3 packets of Jacob's Ladder because I love Jacob's Ladder and I just never have enough of it. I love this for a medium, dry, shady area in the yard. It likes part shade, part sun, kind of like in between area. It's also a small plant, so I like to plant plenty of them, like 3 of them in a little triangle, and that kind of replaces a hosta in the shade. And so I slowly kind of remove the hostas in my yard because they're kind of inert as far as I'm concerned. And I put 3 Jacob's Ladder in their place. It has beautiful foliage, beautiful little flowers. It looks good throughout the season, holds onto its leaves, and I just never have enough of this plant. I did see a cultivar of this in the garden center last year, $17 for a gallon, and honestly, it's because it's a cultivar and it's because these plants do take a little bit longer to mature, so that's why I plant 3 of them together. That fills out nicely. Prairie smoke. I'll always grow prairie smoke. I have plenty of them, but it's a little bit difficult for me to collect them from seed. So I just go ahead and order a couple packets. These are $3 each. I certainly don't mind paying $6 for a bunch of prairie smoke seeds. I've had excellent success growing prairie smoke indoors and with the winter sowing method. I would say this plant is easy for beginners. It's a full sun plant. It doesn't mind a dry area. It's really great for like a big open space that you have. They're very small, very short, gorgeous plant. And of course, I can never forget about the blue phlox. Wild blue phlox, Phlox varicata, gorgeous, gorgeous plant that blooms in the early spring. And this is gonna bring some color to your shade garden. Everybody knows it can be challenging in the shade. There's just not a whole lot of plants that have big, pretty flowers. This has a lot of small blue flowers. They're gorgeous and they do bloom in the spring. They will make your shade garden beautiful. Now, the problem with these guys though, these guys are beloved by rabbits and deer and other little critters. So if you do plant wild blue phlox, you are gonna have to cage it or set up something to kind of protect it because they're going to get eaten to the ground. Sometimes our prettiest plants just get eaten really fast, especially in the spring. There's a lot of critters who are kind of hungry from the winter. There wasn't a whole lot to eat over the winter. And then once those shoots come up in spring, they are on it. And the blue phlox is very, very tasty to them. You're going to have to throw a cloche, a cage, some kind of wire around it to keep out the rabbits and squirrels, but it's definitely worth growing. I've had success growing this with the winter sowing method. I was kind of struggling growing them indoors under lights. I would say this is kind of a moderately difficult one to germinate. I didn't get a ton of germination and they promptly got eaten last year, so I'm trying again. Okay, this one needs to go in the fridge. This is Aracema or Jack in the Pulpit. I tried to grow Jack in the Pulpit last year and I had kind of mixed results. I did have some things sprout. I had really tiny plants. This one has like a double dormancy where you have to put it in the fridge for 60 days, take it out for 30 days, and then put it back into the fridge and then take it out again. So this is probably for an experienced gardener. I think it's awesome to try to grow Jack in the Pulpit. If you feel like you're up to a challenge, go ahead and give it a try. It's a fantastic plant. I don't have enough pictures of this plant because I just don't see it very often. It grows so slowly that it can be a little bit more expensive to buy in its adult form. I'm probably going to try to buy some this year, but I'm also going to try to grow from seed because I just love growing from seed. Okay. Wild columbine. Now, it's easy to see columbine at the garden center, but this is usually not the native plant. This is usually a purple columbine that is from a different continent than North America. I'm not exactly sure where the columbine is from, but this one is a North American plant. It is a shade plant and it is easy to germinate. You can germinate it with the winter sowing method or you can stratify it in the fridge. These are wonderful. They are beginner friendly. They have a really pretty red honeycomb type of structure. This is important for hummingbirds who are migrating up towards where I am, which is in zone 5B. The hummingbirds are coming in the spring and they're looking for that red color and they're looking for tubular flowers. And so this will bring hummingbirds to your yard early in the year. Okay, I'm a little bit embarrassed that I had to buy Asclepias incarnata swamp milkweed because these are so prolific in my yard and they grow these big seed pods with tons of, oh, you can hear the seeds. They grow these big seed pods with tons of seeds in them and they're very easy to collect. I just had like a crazy summer and I did not collect a lot of seeds this year. But if you grow Asclepias incarnata, by the second year, you're gonna have an infinite amount of seeds to get from these seed pods. It is really prolific. There's a lot of seeds and it also does a fair amount of reseeding around the yard. So you will kind of find swamp milkweed popping up everywhere. If you learn how to identify it, you'll be able to see it early in the spring and you can leave it where it is, or you can transplant it to an area where you want it to grow. I think swamp milkweed is a very easy plant to grow for beginners. You can see here I had a ton of success with this with winter sowing. I've also grown these indoors. Now when you're starting Asclepias incarnata, each of these seeds kind of has its own little quirks. Asclepias incarnata, obviously it's a swamp milkweed, so it likes water. Just like any seedling, you don't want to overwater it, but then once the roots start getting bigger, this guy gets thirsty. So if you start growing it indoors, you're going to be watering it all the time by the time planting day comes around. So just be aware that this guy's thirsty. You really need to keep up on watching them to make sure that they don't just soak up all the water you give them. So when they're in these little jugs, you got to open it up. You got to pick up the jug to see, does this feel light, like there's no water in it, or does it feel nice and heavy and I know that there's enough moisture? And what would swamp milkweed be if it didn't have its friend orange milkweed, butterfly weed, Asclepias tuberosa? I love Asclepias tuberosa. I can never have enough of this plant. Little orange flowers, they are like fire in the garden. They're so beautiful. This is a tough plant if it's planted in the right place. Now with Asclepias tuberosa, I've had extremely good luck germinating these seeds, but when you transplant them, sometimes they can go into transplant shock. They are a little picky about being transplanted, not like Asclepias incarnata, which the roots are so wiry and fibrous, you can literally pull them apart very easily. Kind of like if you're a vegetable gardener, if you've ever separated onion roots, it's really not a big deal. They're just like ropey and they're just really strong and tough. It doesn't hurt the onions to separate them. But for orange milkweed, Asclepias tuberosa, they just don't like to be separated. They don't like their roots messed with. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll cut them like little brownies and I'll just plant them in clumps. Now, sometimes you will transplant Asclepias tuberosa and it looks like it dies and then it starts to come back around June or July. But you don't have to give up on them. Okay, it feels like this has gone by so fast, but I don't think so. Okay, Iris versicolor. This is our blue flag iris. This is a wetland plant. I have had success growing these from seed. I've also seen them reseed in the right conditions. I've seen small blue flag iris seedlings popping up in spring and thriving throughout the summer. So I would say if they're reseeding, it's probably an easy one to sprout, easy one to germinate and propagate for beginners. I think these plants grow a little bit slower, and so they can be a little bit more expensive to buy in the store. You know, when something's expensive, I love to grow it from seed because I can get a lot of plants for just a little bit of money, as long as I have space, which is always a problem. And the last one is going to be Echinacea pallida. Echinacea pallida is pale purple coneflower. So it looks like a purple coneflower, but the petals are a little bit different. They kind of hang down a little bit. They don't ray out like the purple coneflower does. And that's because this is a plant that is well suited to dry areas in the sun. So this is a true prairie plant. Now, purple coneflower can be found in the prairies, but needs a little bit of shade. It's a little bit easier for it to grow in places where it's not in the blasting sun all the time. You're going to find it's going to do well. Now with Echinacea pallida, pale purple coneflower, this guy can tolerate full blasting sun all day. You can put it out in the middle of the yard and you just plant a whole bunch of them because they're a little bit smaller and they don't have quite as many blooms. And so you just put a whole bunch of them there and they look awesome. So it's just a perfect addition to a full sun garden where maybe it's in a dry area, maybe it's out by the mailbox, and you don't want to drag the hose out by the mailbox to like water your plants. You want something that's going to be easy to take care of, and that's pale purple coneflower. I have seen it bloom in drought conditions with no supplemental water. That was super fun. Thanks so much for opening these with me. I love doing these little seed hauls. I can't wait to show you what they look like in the next video.